Hello everyone, I'd like to open the meeting promptly at 5:30 for once and begin by invoking Eminem in an untraditional fashion. Guess who's back? Back again, Chair Ryan is back. Tell a friend. Good evening and welcome to this, the 6th meeting of the 55th Guild Council, and I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land. The Curtin Student Guild would like to pay our respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander members of our community by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land for which the Bentley campus is located, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and for our Kalgoorlie campus, the Wongatha people of the North Eastern Goldfields. We acknowledge and respect their continuing culture and the contribution they make to the life of this university, city and region. Moving to attendance, members present, we have Jasmine Tweed, Mitch Craig, Veronica Gobber, Max Zhang, Ben, Jackie, Ray, Dylan, Tani, Callum, Serena, Ella and others present. We have Marianne, who will be replacing David, Zoe, Emily and somebody has just walked in. Hamida, thank you. Apologies and leave of absences. We have two, one on behalf of David Luketner, who is holidaying, presumably in Europe, and the other on behalf of Noor. Absent today, we have at current interval, Alina and Texa. Move on. Okay, well, that can be noted when Alina arrives, Mitch. That's great, thank you. Moving to item 3, disclosure of any perceived or potential conflicts of interest. Do any members present have any perceived or potential conflicts of interest with the content of this agenda? Serena?
I had a conflict of interest to raise regarding item 6.2, I believe, regarding my appointment of International Student Committee President.
Thank you, Serena. The motion is to appoint Serena as the acting ISC President. Having consulted precedent, I think it's consistent that the member shall be present but not able to vote nor speak on their confirmation of appointment. Are all members present happy with that judgment? Perfect. We'll move on. Veronica, you also have your hand raised.
Just for the NUS affiliation motion, I'm a member of the NUS NX, which I declared at Reps Ward as well when we spoke on this motion.
Thank you, Veronica. I'll just also quickly note that Rob Vusak has entered as another member present, or other present rather, as a non-sitting member of the Guild Council. Was there any further potential or perceived conflicts of interest to discuss? If not, we'll move straight on to item 4, which is the minutes of previous meetings and circular resolutions. Item 4.1, Ella? Yes, provided I can get through reading the motion. Thank you. Item 4.1 is the previous meeting minutes. The motion is that the Guild Council approves the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 23rd of the 5th, 2024 as a true and accurate record of proceedings at that meeting. That's moved by Mitch Craig. Can I get a seconder? Ben, Mitch as the mover, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I'll just, minor correction, it says Jasmine Tweed to chair the meeting. It should just say Jasmine Tweed to chair the meeting.
Ben as seconder, do you have anything to add? No? Ella?
Some of it I think is inaccurate. For example, it says that Ella Markionda added that any MOU agreed upon by the council was also agreed upon by the encampment, and the encampment was allowed to have seen this and hear about it. But that's not accurate, because my argument was that the camp had not seen the MOU, but the camp had reached an agreement in the weeks prior that any MOU that was signed between the university and the guild would be seen by the encampment and voted upon by the encampment, and the issue was that it wasn't. And so I think this kind of reads as if I said that MOU that was signed was also agreed upon the encampment, and the encampment was allowed to have seen this and hear about it, but that's not what happened. So I don't know if it could just be amended to actually accurately represent what I said.
Yeah. happy for that. Would you like to move a motion to amend that and have an example? It's amenable? Fantastic.
We just say that we're approving it subject to the changes, and I'll confirm those changes with Ella by email.
Okay, cool.
Fantastic. Perfect. We can take that offline. I'll also note that Alina has just joined us, and I'll confirm, Alina, you can hear us, and we will require the face cam on.
Yes, give me 2 seconds.
Okay, perfect. Take this opportunity to ask if there are any further issues with the minutes from the previous meeting. If not, perfect. We will talk about amending those minutes outside of this forum, and we can raise that at the next Guild Council. We'll move along to item 4.2, circular resolutions. There were no circular resolutions for this Guild Council, so we can move right along. Item 5 is reports. We have a bit to get through here now today, including the reports from May as well as the mid-year KPIs. We'll start with Jasmine. Item 5.1, your report was submitted, as were your KPIs. Do you have anything to add?
I'm happy to take my reports as tabled, the same with my KPIs, but happy to answer any questions.
Were there any questions for Jasmine on their June report and KPIs? If not, we'll move along to Veronica. Item 5.2, Veronica, Ella.
Can I have my speaking rights to Hamida? It's on your bylaws. What do you mean?
Hamida can wish to speak, which is consistent with what we've done in previous Guild Councils. And it's the discretion of the chair that allows us to speak, but noting that we want to move in a timely and efficient manner.
Yeah. We should be able to.
Yeah, of course. I completely agree.
Okay. I'll ask the questions. Okay.
Sure.
Well, I guess the report talks about the MOU and the agreement made between the university and the guild regarding getting Curtin to cut ties to Israel and companies complicit in genocide and apartheid. And so I think it would be worth hearing about any updates regarding that campaign and the fight to get Curtin to cut ties to Israel. Like, we did ask about it in RepSpod last week, but I was quite dissatisfied by the answer. And I do think as well, like, it's important we think about the reality of Curtin University's connection and commitment to the military industry. Like, as I said last week, they're supporting the Indian Ocean Defence and Security Conference. They're the platinum sponsor. Curtin has stated that they want to expand their connections to weapons companies like BAE Systems. And so I just do think Jasmine should give a update on like what has actually happened. Like, I think the MOU, frankly, didn't commit the university to actually tangibly do anything, but I would like to hear from the guild's progress because, you know, they are part of the campaign that we're also involved in to get Curtin to cut ties to weapons companies.
Thank you, Jasmine.
So as a part of the MOU, it included the establishment of the working group that is a part of implementing the MOU, and we have got that established, including with the university's PVC or DVC for research, and as a part of that, working with that team and with Paul, who was the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, the working group is going to be established at the beginning of semester 2 and form as a part of the campaign more broadly. The Guild has been working with academics and talking to a lot of academics who are part of the kind of support of the campaign and for the MOU at the beginning to see different areas of the university that we aren't currently aware of yet that have ties to either Israel or weapons manufacturing more broadly, and especially in the postgrad space, we're finding out more information there and finding out more areas that have ties that we didn't know about as well, and kind of gaining that information. So when it comes to semester 2, we can have a really strong launch of the university, and also when that working group is formed, bringing more information to the table that wasn't previously kind of made aware to the Guild or the broader student population. We've also been in talks with the Curtin Palestinian Society about some kind of upcoming events and things that we'll be doing in semester 2 for the campaign.
Thank you, Jasmine. Yes.
Well, I just kind of think like we need a bit more transparency about like these negotiations and like what the plans are. Like, it's kind of unfair for all the students that's like put so much effort, you know, being active around the encampment time to like just be kind of like not included in anything at the moment and like just be confused, because like the only thing we kind of have is the university's statement, which was really I don't know, very like both sides are being, you know, affected by this. It was not at all supporting like Palestine in that statement, and the MOU is not really talking about like you know, that it'll actually divest. It actually says that it doesn't even have that.
To draw a question.
Yeah, my question is, are we going to know anything about this? Because Veronica spoke about like a working group last week. She said she was going to let I don't know, us know about like what's been going on and what the plans are by this week. We didn't hear anything. We don't really know what's going on. And I really think like we should be a bit more involved in this. It should be a bit more open for students to be involved in and be active around this issue if they do wish so.
Jasmine?
So we're planning on having kind of once Reps Ward and Guild Council have done each month, doing more of an update to students about the different areas, including the motions that were passed and things discussed at Reps Ward and Guild Council. Myself and Veronica have honestly just been off sick since Thursday last week, and V's still sick at home. But once we've had Guild Council, and because especially there's recommendations from Reps Ward last week that are coming to Guild Council for this week, we're going to make it more of a regular thing, update to students. At the beginning of semesters, we have students pick which areas they're interested in hearing from the Guild about, including areas of representation in campaigns, and that's the cohort we've been sending information to. And we'll do further info on this, especially on the campaign on Palestine and student housing, and the SAF campaign as well.
Thanks, Jasmine. Yes. To the left.
Yeah, Jasmine, when you were first speaking and stuff, you said that the working group was established, but then also said that it will be established. So I just want clarification on that, but can I continue the rest of my question? Sure. Yeah, I think it's also important that we have transparency and like clarification about who is in the working group, like from the Guild, and also who is talking to the academics about, you know, the ties and stuff, just so there's transparency about like who students should be going to in regards to things like that. And if, you know, developments happen, that they can be held accountable in that sense as well.
Jasmine.
So a part of the working group from the university will be the Deputy Vice-Chancellor of Research and the Deputy Vice-Chancellor Academic. So you have Lindsay and Paul, as in from the Guild. It will be myself as Guild President, and then Veronica as Chair of the Representation Board. Oh, the additional, that's 4 people from the Guild or 4 people overall? Yeah, so that at the moment that's who started, but once we have our initial first meeting at the beginning of semester, we'll see where it goes from there. So in terms of who is getting the group off the ground, that is the people, and that those are the 2 people who have been from the university side, who have been like chosen by the VC essentially, or have put their hand up to do it. And it's the 2 people that make sense, because it's the person that is in charge of all learning and teaching at the university and the person that's in charge of all research at the university, the 2 most relevant areas for this topic. In terms of people that have been talking to academics and that, has primarily been myself, and who have been talking to staff, Mitch and V as well, the people that have the most kind of connection to those people, because we sit on committees and boards and things like that with these staff members.
Yeah, I'll allow for one more question here, just in accordance with keeping this relatively timely and the substance being intrinsically what we're discussing, which is the report. I'll call upon the member present.
Yeah, I just think, like, to be honest, like, it is a bit pathetic that what has come out of the encampment is a working group with like 2 people on here who, like, the best you can do is like say like maybe we'll keep like the students updated with what we're doing personally, what we're doing with like 2 people that the Vice Chancellor has personally like appointed herself. This is a vice chancellor who like is on over $1 million. Like she has no interest in, backing up students, backing up staff. She has casualized this whole thing. Yeah. And I think that
please,
do you think,
can you draw to
do you think that, the encampment you have come to some great agreement? What do you think is going to come out of this working group? Like, it is two people that the vice chancellor is obviously very comfortable being in. She knows that it's not a threat.
I'll allow Jasmine to answer the first of two questions if you so choose.
In terms of the two people from the university side who I think should be in the working group, I think it is the two most senior people who have control over both of the areas who have either research partnership ties or who do have those connections with industry and with different countries. Those are the two most senior people in the university. Like, the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Research is the most senior person in the university that has control over research. So yes, I do think that's the most appropriate person in terms of dealing with the university's research ties and things that affect HDR students and postgrad students more broadly, and the research that university produces every year. I do think that is the most appropriate person to be on the board. And then having the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, who is the person in control of all learning and teaching that happens at this university. So I do think those are the two most appropriate senior people who can actually make decisions and who have control over things like that. I do think that is the most appropriate people to be, and from the university side. And then the guild president is the most senior person in the guild. And then having the chair of the representation board, the person who was meant to represent the views of representation board students who are elected to that board. And we are also, the guild in particular, as it was already previously working with the Palestinian Society when it came to the guild's own personal ties and things like, when it comes to BDS, we won't be renewing our contracts with Coca-Cola, all those things that we had been working on last year. So we have been working with the Palestinian Society as well. And like it was said, Razan has met with the VC and voiced her concerns directly from the top as well, from the beginning of this negotiation process.
Thank you, Jasmine. As I just said, that'll be our last question. I do invite members, if you have further questions, contact Jasmine outside of the Guild Council, just as a matter of assuring kind of governance and efficiency of this board. We'll move to Vice President Education. Veronica, item 5.2, your report and mid-year KPIs were submitted. Did you have anything to add?
I'll just take it as read. Thanks. But please feel free to ask questions.
Thank you. I'll just note that Jasmine has left the chamber at 5:48 p.m. Were there any questions for Veronica on her previous report, or the June report rather? Sure.
It's not specifically on the report, but at Reps Board last week you said...
If not specifically on the report, it can be raised in general business, which will come later.
Okay, I have a question about general business though. Are we allowed, what is the procedure for that? Because can you basically shut down discussion and democratic asking from students, or are we allowed to talk?
You're allowed to ask questions provided you seek the call from the chair, and the chair grants the call for members present to talk at general business. So that's been the precedent that we've set this year. That's going to be consistent today. Yep. Ella.
Yeah, I have a question for Veronica.
Shoot.
So I guess it's going off the last discussion, but I just am slightly concerned that some of the momentum around the encampment in terms of actually mobilising students against the university for the demands that we demanded has been lost in the Guild. I do question the Guild's commitment to continuing to actually mobilise students in protest and activism to help put pressure on the university, because like you said, we have a working group with two very senior, powerful people in the university, people who have influences from all sorts of stakeholders, businesses, from the government, from, also the military industry. I did mention before, Curtin sponsoring a big security and defence conference happening in Perth. So the university is legitimately influenced by the interests of the military and big corporations, and all these people in power who are in the working group are very much influenced and always taking into consideration the interests of business, in their running of the university, because universities are run like a business. We all know that. They churn students in and out to get more money for themselves. So I do think the Guild needs to think, how are we actually going to mobilise students to put pressure on the university, and actually allow us to even have leverage within the working group? Do you know what I'm saying?
Is that the question?
Yeah, I just want, because Veronica's on the working group, or like this first established working group, like what is she going to do to help to actually mobilise students in protest and opposition to the university's connections to Israel?
Sure. V?
Thanks for the question. So while semester break is on, I haven't been focusing efforts on planning any actions currently. I'm currently working on a comms piece for students to help get them to the security defence protest, which I think is going to be probably the best thing we should focus on currently for Curtin students in terms of protest action, and hoping to come up with developing a comms plan and a bit of a campaigning plan to get students to that protest as well. So that's the current thing I've been focusing on. I'm happy to chat more about what we can do, because I know, Ella, you're part of a group who is really good at very experienced in running protest actions on campus. So I'm very happy to speak more about, as a Guild councillor, of how we could do one in Sem 2 and how we can align that with what's happening, because we haven't met in the MOU working group. I think once we meet, it might be give a small direction as what we might need to put pressure on specifically.
Thanks, Veronica. Any further questions for Veronica?
It would be good to continue to talk about the comms that are being established to get people to not now, but in correspondence, and also in an email or something, what's actually planned to help to communicate the Indian Ocean Defence and Security Conference protest to students.
Let's pencil that in for a communication to happen outside of this Guild Council. I'll allow the members to sort that out. We'll move along to the Vice President activities. Max, your report was submitted, as were your mid-year KPI updates. Do you have anything to add?
Nothing to add. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Max. Any questions for Max? If not, we'll move on to item 5.4, the Vice President's Sustainability and Welfare. Jackie, your report was submitted, as was your KPI update. Were there any questions for Jackie? Sorry, Jackie, do you have anything to add? Sorry.
No, I'm happy to take it as table, but I'm open to any questions about my report or KPIs.
Thanks, Jackie. Any questions for Jackie? If not, we'll move along to Mitch. Item 5.5, the Secretary. Mitch, your report was submitted, as was your mid-year KPI review. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I'll just highlight that some communication went out to clubs this afternoon about new tax requirements from the ATO, and that's got a lot of information. If you or anyone you know is in clubs, please look up the email and have a good read. It's very important information. The ATO is going to make clubs start paying tax. They're not tax exempt, and it's a whole thing. There's a lot more information in the email. If you have any questions, please email the club support team.
Thank you, Mitch. Any questions for Mitch? If not, we'll move to item 5.6, the Managing Director's report. That was submitted by David, but Marianne is here on David's behalf, so any questions can be directed to Marianne. Marianne, do you have anything to add on David's behalf?
No, there's nothing to add to the report, but I'm happy to answer any questions if I can.
Any questions for Marianne? If not, we'll move to the motion. The motion is that the Guild Council approves the June reports, and that is chasing a mover. Dylan, and a seconder. Jackie, all those in favour? All those against? That motion is carried. Now, a tad of clerical work. At the last Guild Council, the May reports were not approved by the Council, and so I will proceed with the motion to approve those May reports. Can I get a mover? Jackie, and a seconder. Ben, and a vote. All those in favour? All those against? That motion is carried. And finally, the third motion that we have here is that the Guild Council approves the submitted KPI mid-year reviews. Can I get a mover? Mitch, and a seconder. Jasmine, all those in favour? All those against? That motion is carried as well. We'll move along to item 6, business on notice. Item 6.1 is, of course, the safety report. Is there any discussion relating to the safety report from members present? Mitch?
Yeah. Marianne, do you know what it means by the chemical room walls are expanding? Because that's just kind of, yeah.
Well, I don't know technically what it means, but there are obviously changes to the walls that have been noted, and that has been passed on to Curtin. So that will need further investigation.
Thank you, Marianne. Any further questions on the safety report? If not, the motion is that the Guild Council notes the safety report. That's moved by Jasmine and seconded by Mitch Craig. All those in favour? All those against? That motion is carried. Item 6.2 is the appointment of an acting officer. The motion is that the Guild Council ratify the appointment of Serena Pun as acting International Student Committee President. Jasmine, as the mover, would you like to speak to the motion? No. Mitch, as the seconder, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, I'll just say that all the info is in the preamble.
Thank you, Mitch. Was there any further discussion on behalf of members present? If not, we'll move to a vote. All those in favour? All those against? That motion is carried. And with that, I'd like to be one of the first to congratulate Serena on your appointment. Thank you. Best in, best dressed. Okay, moving to item 6.3, the NUS affiliation. The motion is that the Guild Council approve the National Union of Students Incorporated affiliation fee of $38,700, presumably Australian dollars, as recommended by the Representation Board. That's moved by Veronica and seconded by Jasmine. Veronica, as the mover, would you like to speak to the motion?
It's all kind of summed up in the background, but this was a figure that members of Repsford were generally comfortable with. And it was based off the KPI matrix, which is a normal standard we've done for years. So, yeah.
Thank you, Veronica. Jasmine, as seconder, would you like to add? Yep.
I just wanted to add that we're affiliating to the NUS less than what we did last year, but we're actually paying more than what we did last year because we're hosting EdCon, and we're basically the gap is being filled through the money we've spent on EdCon. And Jono, the Secretary, has just sent through our contract of how much we're spending on the NUS, and I can assure everyone that it very much fills that gap to reach that 50,000 amount that we did previously.
Thank you, Jasmine. Members present, was there any further discussion or questions relating to the item? Ray?
Thank you. Just a quick question on the matrix. There's a total billed affiliation amount of $79,125. What is that number? How is it calculated, and who did it come from in general?
Jasmine?
So that amount that is calculated based on how much the cost is for a member organisation per full-time equivalent student. So that is the amount that's calculated by the NUS. It changes slightly every year. It generally goes up, and that's how much it is for us to affiliate if we were to pay our full affiliation amount that is billed by the NUS. But every year we apply for a fee waiver to pay the amount that the Guild Council decides that we affiliate for.
Thank you, Jasmine. Any follow-up or additional questions? If not, we'll go to a vote. Can I get the votes in favour? Votes against? That motion is carried. We'll move to item 7. Item 7 is, of course, the minutes of committees reporting to the Guild Council. Item 7.1 being the Representation Board held on the 16th of May, 7.2 being the Executive Committee held on both the 20th of May and the 30th of May. There was nothing to report from the Finance and Risk Committee or the Legal Committee. The motion is that the Guild Council notes the minutes of these boards and committees on block. That's moved by Mitch. Can I get a seconder? Jackie? Given that we've been moving on block, there's no need to discuss. Can I get votes for Votes against? That motion is carried. We'll move to the fun one that we discussed a little earlier on. Item 8 is, of course, general business. Were there any questions or queries on behalf of members relating to general business to discuss? Start with Ella.
Well, this is just on the fact that I did try to move a motion in this meeting regarding ordinary reps board positions being taken away last year. And to get I also just wanted at least a discussion on, the possibility of even like reinstating them, because I do really think that the abolition of the ordinary reps board position is an extremely undemocratic move that does basically push the reps board into only representing one opinion of Illuminate and silencing minority opinions and other voices who contest in the elections. And the reps board is actually the main space of the student union in which political issues and social justice issues are discussed. The Guild Council, it's actually out of the Guild Council's remit to really discuss that, and you guys have said as much to me before. And I think it's actually a stifling of student democracy to not allow there to be proportional representation of all students who run in student elections in the reps board. So it's like, because someone said before, the reps board is voted by students and represents students who, the voice of students, but it's like, how can it fully and adequately represent all students' opinions if Left Action got 30% of the vote last year, but that vote is not at all actually translated into positions on the reps board? Instead, every position on the reps board is someone who ran with Illuminate. So actually, where is the ability for minor tickets to get actual position in a space that politics is debated and discussed? And additionally to that, when we have tried to come to reps board and speak, it's up to the chair essentially to allow to decide when students get the right to speak. So yeah, we've moved motions and you guys have moved some of the motions. You also haven't moved all the motions we've tried to move in reps board. And also you picked and choose so you can speak. So for example, in general business last week, Veronica decided as the chair that we weren't allowed to have any say in the general business section of the meeting. But the reps board before that, you allowed a supporter of Israel, someone who opposed the encampment, to speak in general business. But then last week, the decision was made to silence pro-Palestine students from speaking in general business. It's I think it's there's a bit of, it's the chair can just pick and choose based on how they feel about who can speak and where they can speak and everything. So I do just think I want to hear people's opinions about what they think about ordinary reps board being abolished, why they apparently think it's more democratic to abolish it, and actually how we can promote more democracy in the student guild.
I'll do two things here. I'll shed some light onto as to why chair discretion is so important in line with precedent, and then I'll allow Mitch to discuss why that motion that was submitted.
It's not just about the motion though, it's also about the content of the motion, and it's about ordinary reps board. The motion wasn't moved. It's not really about that. I'm more concerned about what you guys actually think about ordinary reps board being abolished and why that was seen as a good move by the guild.
Yeah, sure. Let's open this discussion up to the floor for members present to discuss. But I will quickly say, from my position, I can't speak for Veronica, but for me it's about orderly and efficient governance of the Guild Council. The Representation Board has a slightly different remit. So when it comes to general business, this is not a kind of open discussion to go on for hours and hours and hours. These meetings are designed to be efficient and accountable, and that is ruthlessly efficient and accountable. So I can't speak on behalf of Veronica, but from my perspective, I'm allowing individuals to speak at general business. That's not necessarily consistent with previous rulings from previous chairs from previous years, but it's what we've governed with on the Guild Council, and Veronica is entitled to make that discretion and that decision in her own right as chair of the reps board. Sure.
I mean, it's just a political decision though, right? Because it's you're efficient manner. You are political, you're choosing who you want to speak and when you want them to speak. And it I think we have to say that is all informed by what you think is the most good thing for the guild. How is that an objective position, because like if you don't always allow students who want to speak in general business to speak, actually you're just deciding based on how you feel and what you think. It's not actually like being a fair chair, because you actually do have a bias, and you know you do. And so I think like that needs to be.
Are you directing this?
I'm just directing it in general, like at all decisions made by chairs. Like we can't say that chairs just do things about efficiency. It's also about what you think, who you think should speak, when they should get the chance to speak, like, and how you control the discussion.
I would direct the member to consult the bylaws if they want to see what the director.
Also, I think it's just like.
I will quickly say, never once have I personally stopped or stemmed discussion from you guys.
No, yeah,
I think that's a.
Well, Veronica did last week. So.
Okay, maybe direct the question at Veronica.
Okay, well, yeah, Veronica wants to respond, but it's not just about that. It's also just about like the thing you just said about efficient governance and whatever. It's like the guild representatives are voted on by students.
Sure.
They should actually be directly accountable to students, and students. These meetings should be way more publicised to students actually, so that students know what like members of the Reps Board and the Guild Council are speaking about.
Is your point about the publication of the Guild Council, or is the point about how it's being chaired, or is the point about...
No, the point is about students being able to voice their opinions and hold the people that they elect accountable and actually know what the people who are in the Guild are deciding and doing.
Sure. I'll allow Jasmine to speak, but I will finish by saying that governance is not just what's written in the bylaws, it's also precedent, and there is a significant degree of personal determination in that composition. So everyone chairs differently. If that's not a consistent answer or what you want, then that's just how it is. Jasmine?
I just wanted to, I guess, start conversation when it comes to the removal of ordinary representation board members from Reps Board through the reg changes that happened early last year. Kind of the main argument that has been made since the beginning of that is that it doesn't allow for proportional representation. We don't get a say on Reps Board anymore. When we had Reps Board members, Left Action held one ordinary representation board member out of the 6, and through the time we had ordinary Reps Board members, holding one position on Reps Board, you can move a motion, but it's through the support of the rest of the board that any of those motions that were submitted were able to be seconded and therefore discussed and voted on Reps Board, which is no different to what we're doing right now. You could never move or second a motion yourself with ordinary representation board members. So you're asking for them to be, or like your opinion is they should come back, when you did have them, you couldn't even move or second a motion yourself.
I mean, that argument's futile, because it's like, but if we did have 2 ordinary Reps Board positions, also it's not guaranteed that you always move and second the motions that we submit. So that's one thing. And like, it actually is important to have formal representation on a body, because not having formal representation in a body gives you less rights in that body, makes you have less influence on that body. And it's about at least minority tickets being formally represented in a body and in a board, rather than just being random observers students. Like, there's a difference between formal representation in a body and just having less rights as an ordinary student away from that, who doesn't have a right to move in second motion.
Sure, we'll go Jasmine, then Ray.
I just wanted further clarity. Why do you class yourself a minority ticket when you ran for every single position last year in the Guild elections? How are you a minority ticket when you ran a full ticket running for every single position that Illuminate ran for? You ran a president.
Minor party is a party that gets less votes than the major parties. You guys win over 50% of the vote for every single position. Okay. Therefore, if we were like, it's like the Greens in Parliament. The Greens get representation in the Senate because they don't win a majority of positions for MPs. So that's what it's like. It's pretty normal in elections. It's pretty normal in governance for there to be proportional representation of teams that get less.
I would just remind members that a good Guild Council is a Guild Council that is conducted in a manner which is orderly. So members can still make comments, but let's just be orderly about it. I'll call Ray.
Thank you. I do fully agree with Ella's position around the abolishment of the Ordinary Representation Board position. I think it was probably not as well thought through as it could have been. At the very least, the communication to concerned parties was not adequate. there's also the issue around formal recognition of student participation in the guild that now Left Action has essentially been locked out of. They're not getting Curtin extra for what they submit to Reps Board or the discussion that is had there. It's just, there's more than just the ability to submit a motion that is important on a body like Reps Board. Yeah.
Thank you, Ray. Any further discussion for general business? Further questions? Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think the general point is the argument that's been made since, the changes have been made that these meetings are supposed to be more democratic in this way, which the argument is it is not democratic at all if, we don't, like, the chair picks and chooses who gets to be able to speak in general business and who doesn't. Like last week, it was the case that only members can speak and non-members can't raise anything. So like, when is students supposed to raise actual concerns to the student union? Like, if it's not the meeting last week, like when else are we supposed to be raising these things? So the argument is it's not democratic at all.
I understand the argument. The argument's been well made. I'll call on Mitch to discuss.
Yep. So there's a couple of ways you can raise your concerns. So one of them is email your reps, and the other one is we have public question time.
Thanks, Mitch. Ella.
I really agree with what Ray said and what Hamida said. And I think, it's just about formal representation and actually being able to participate in the actual areas of governance in the guild in a further way, which we have been locked out of. So I was wondering what people here actually think, show of hands, who agrees that abolishing Ordinary Reps Board was a mistake? Hands up. Right. Okay, no one else? Okay, that's pretty shameful. I think that's quite shocking, really, considering how it is an attack on democracy. And I think what Mitch just said, to be honest, just vastly inadequate to think that question time and emailing reps is an adequate amount of kind of accountability that Reps Board members need. I do just think you guys should all seriously reconsider the decision. And to be honest, I think it was made to specifically lock out socialists from the guild and from the Reps Board. We are the major minor ticket that runs every single year. And who else is it targeting other than us, really? So I think it's an anti-left, anti-socialist kind of thing that has happened to purposely lock us out of formal participation in the Reps Board. And I think it should seriously be reconsidered.
Do you still want to speak? Yep, sure, and then we'll go.
This is more kind of directed to Veronica and more just chairs in general, right? So you said earlier that a good guild is meant to be orderly and efficient. I completely disagree with that. A good guild is supposed to represent the students that they were voted in by. So that's actually incredibly ridiculous for you to say that. It's also that they're meant to be accountable, right? Last week, we were here as students trying to hold the guild accountable for talking about the MOU and their involvement in the encampment and their future involvement in the MOU and getting Curtin to cut their ties with weapons companies and Israel, right? That was shut down during general business. We were told, no, we have to, no, it's not happening anymore. So I think that saying that it's meant to be orderly, efficient, all that type of stuff is actually, let me finish, it's quite bullshit. I think that is actually incredibly ridiculous. It's a way of shutting down opposition to whatever the guild does not want to talk about. We asked multiple questions about what is the guild doing to get Curtin to cut ties. Veronica did not have anything to bring to us. She said that she was going to email us what the guild had said that they were going to do. That has not happened. She said that would happen on the Monday that has just gone. Has not happened. So I just want to know, what was the actual reasoning for shutting down, general business and not allowing us to speak? Meanwhile, pro-Israeli students are given the floor to speak and basically talk like shit on an encampment that is there fighting for Curtin to cut ties. Like, why is that distinction made, and why was that allowed to go ahead? Because I think that's pretty horrific.
Sure. I will just quickly articulate that you should read the bylaws and find out exactly what the role of the chair is. I'll note that effectively the only role of the chair is for Guild Council is to make sure that the Guild Council is governed and governed correctly. Right now, you can walk and chew gum at the same time. You can have an efficient meeting and a democratic meeting, which is what I'm trying to do here by allowing members who are not elected to speak. Right now, that's the discretion of the chair. That's not outlined in the bylaws. What the chair's decision as to whether to let individuals who come to those meetings to speak is not directly articulated. Previous chairs haven't allowed it. I have. Other chairs may not. Right? That is what the discretion of the chair is. And of course, there's always going to be ambiguities with regulation. That's the point that I would make to you. For further information, okay, well, I'll invite Veronica to speak if Veronica so wishes. But yep, I'll invite Veronica to speak if Veronica so wishes. But there's nothing that compels Veronica to speak on her chairing experience in the representation board here at Guild Council. All right, that's up to Veronica, okay? Veronica, if you wish to speak.
Thank you. I'll address a few things that have been said. So there was a comparison about the student, I think his name was Jeffrey, who got to speak in general business, and then last week others present weren't allowed to speak in general business. Jeffrey brought up something which I believe was either in question time or questions for reports, which either went off topic for the report or like he was in the middle of something, it went off to a different topic. I suggested to him, if this is a real item, can you bring it up in general business? It wasn't a question, it was an item he wanted to discuss about. So I agreed to that, and that was a signed upon thing. That meeting ran really smoothly, and I let him bring that up in general business. When it comes to last week's representation board, there was, I absolutely allowed discussion and questions to members, even though a lot of them went off topic or didn't stick to the report. I let those members completely indulge in discussion on motions as well. Like, there was no shutting down of that. That meeting went on for longer than the allocated time for a normal representation board meeting. And look, I'm not going to apologise, is that our reps board members are people who work at the Guild, people who work in other jobs, who are students who have lives, and I'm not going to make them run a 3-hour meeting for discussion that was quite repetitive and things like that. So I made a choice due to the time and the efficiency of that meeting to not allow general business from others present, and that's the reason for the difference there. And that's a principle I'm proud to stick to. I'm not going to make students sit through 3-hour meetings. After the meeting was concluded, I can't remember who it was, someone was yelling at me about how they're supposed to make their representations heard to me, how they're supposed to listen to students, of which everyone knows that it's not the only forum you can speak to your representatives, that you can communicate and work with your representatives. And I think it's ludicrous to say that as well, and I don't think it was fair to cop abuse for that. And I think it was Zoe who did that. I have not received a single email from Zoe, I'm pretty sure, or had a meeting or communications with Zoe. And if you that is an avenue there. So I just want to address that. But if it's a short meeting or, there's time, I'm always absolutely happy for others present to bring up proper general business. Like that is always a fair and proper principle that should happen. And I will always commit to that. So yeah, to add on about the thing about ordinary representation boards and the changes, I do think that having members who on a weekly basis are representing students, working with students on their issues, can make those really informed decisions on rep board. And so I think that change has been very beneficial. I don't really see any negative tangible outcomes from the actual change in the composition of representation board. In fact, I think there's been a positive change in that the question time and opening up for anyone to submit motions has been a really good thing. So I don't really see the negative tangible outcomes that have changed since, if you compare reps boards from years past to now, I don't really see the difference in outcomes. We have seen more students who aren't from Left Action come to meetings, which I think is positive. It means it's opening up to more different nuances of students.
Thanks, Veronica.
But if we can talk about Curtin Extra, though, if we want people to come to Reps Board, we can talk about getting them Curtin Extra. Happy to do that. We can explore that, I guess, Mitch.
Thank you, Veronica.
Okay.
Just had a question about what is Curtin Extra.
Curtin Extra is literally, so if you're elected to the guild or you're a part of a collective, which, you know, any student can join a collective, or a club. So if you're a club exec, so you already get it, Rob already gets it. If you're on a club exec, it's literally a certificate from the university saying you participated in something extra. Oh, yeah. That's all it is. And you get a little LinkedIn badge for all the neo-lib girlies out there.
Thank you, Jasmine. Our newly minted ISCP president, Serena.
Thank you, Ryan. I definitely agree with Veronica. The last reps board, even though general business was cut short, there was, I feel that there was enough time for discussion in the meeting. But my question was about the discussion about the abolishment of the ordinary reps board. Just because I was curious, I wasn't involved in either guild council or the reps board last year. So I was just unfamiliar why the ordinary reps board was abolished in the first place.
Mitch?
So at the time, the thinking was that basically there was no job description for an ordinary reps board member. They had no role other than they were allowed to submit motions. So by allowing anyone to submit motions rather than just those 6 people, we figured that was the best way to move forward.
Thanks, Mitch. We'll go with Ella as a sitting member, and then we'll come to Rob.
Oh, just quickly, it's like, I think we should be for both, like ordinary reps board positions, being able to submit motions, and ordinary students submitting motions. And yeah, it's not just about submitting motions, it's about, as Ray also said, like it's about having formal representation in the guild and in the bodies that actually discuss out political questions and questions that the guild should take up. And having, formally being able to be a representative on that body that can give an opinion on things. So like I've been part of the RMIT Student Union where there was representation members that didn't have any like formal position or whatever, but were still on the body and could still move motions and discuss different matters, which guild councillors that's out of the remit of the guild council, right? And so that's why I think that there is just like a problem there where there's no other like student representatives who can have a say formally in the discussion spaces of the guild. So yeah, I think that like I don't really agree with Mitch's justification for it, because I think it should be both. Like every student should have the right to move a motion, of course, but yeah.
We will go to Jasmine, a response. We'll go Rob first, because Rob has been waiting a while, so please.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'd like to echo Ella's kind of sentiment that we should have both for those things that, clearly opening the reps board meetings up as much as possible is definitely the best kind of position here. Just to respond to like some of the arguments made, because I think just like we need to point out that like a lot of the arguments that have been made against the ordinary reps board position are just like very clearly anti-democratic arguments that are pro stifling free speech of students, right? Like, I mean, like the idea that like sending emails or sitting in open kind of discussions like question times with members is in any way like comparable to formal kind of representation within a board. Is just like ridiculous. I mean, like this is the idea that like emailing like state or federal MPs is in any way kind of equivalent to like having a position in the parliament, right? Like this is clearly like a ridiculous argument. Like like to say like, oh, we should just lock out all minor parties like the Greens from having any representation in parliament because they can't move motions anyway. So it's like they may as well just get on their computers and write emails to like fucking Anthony Albanese or whatever. Like this like pretty obviously a ridiculous argument. There's like just like totally anti-democratic, right? Like no one would kind of propose such a thing, but basically the exact same argument is being made here in the context of student politics. Like I just think clearly like what we are arguing for is that minor parties should have formal representation, be able to have formal be able to take the Illuminate Party, which currently essentially runs a guild as a one-party dictatorship, actually accountable in a formal kind of meeting in space like this one or reps board and stuff. And I just think it's pretty ridiculous to kind of remove this formal accountability and then claim it's somehow more democratic. This is just like flies in the face of basic logic, and I find it ridiculous anyone would genuinely actually believe in that. And it's very clearly just a sectarian move aimed against left action in particular. And I think attempts to kind of dress this up as more democratic are just totally ridiculous. And I find it hard to believe that people actually believe this.
Thanks, Rob. Jasmine?
In terms of bringing this up for discussion, was it more you wanted to hear what the board's broader opinion on the abolishment of ordinary representation board members, or like is that what the point of the discussion was?
Well, it's just because I moved a motion about it, and so I wanted to discuss it. But whatever, let's just end it here. I don't think we need to go on and on in circles about our disagreements about this, to be honest.
Jackie?
Just wanted to clarify one of your points. The Guild's not a dictatorship just because one party has won the majority of votes. It's a democratic election, and we were all democratically elected into our positions.
Thanks. Jackie, was there anything further to discuss at this? Yep. Can I ask members, a lot of the preamble to discussion here has been kind of rehashing the same points on both sides, our side as well, as members of the Guild Council and as individuals who sat on the Reps Board and Guild Council last year and approved these changes or changed the structure of that Reps Board. I would just ask, please bring new substance to the discussion as part of that duality of being ruthlessly efficient and providing good governance.
Yeah. I think that, as we've discussed, don't need a rehash. There aren't socialists on, the Reps Board, and it is mainly dominated by one party. So I think that one party, the Guild, needs to, play a big role in being activists, particularly for Palestine. I think one of the greatest opportunities for that is coming up. The Indian Ocean Defence Security Conference, which we've spoken about, is less than a month away. This conference is for Australia to shore up military alliances, particularly with AUKUS nuclear submarines. It'll be the first time the heads of the Australian, UK, US navies meet. There'll be a bunch of actual war criminals, Richard Miles, disgracefully, all these people will be meeting. And the conference where people will be talking about how to further profit off genocide and war is, as people know, one of the platinum sponsors is Curtin University. It's pretty horrific. One of the Students of Palestine and Friends of Palestine are organising protests.
Is there a question?
Yeah, there is a question, if you let me finish. So they're organising protests, particularly against the Israeli weapons company, Rafael, which has their weapons, their Spike missiles were the weapons that killed the 7 aid workers a couple months ago, and they have murdered, countless Palestinians. In this genocide, which is just, really horrific that our university not only allows this to happen and has ties to lots of the weapons conference.
I would ask the member to draw to a question, please.
I think that, if I was to sum up, I
don't think a question starts with I think.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
To sum up, I think this... I'm sorry, am I allowed to say I think? I think this is pretty clear that Curtin isn't retreating from militarism, and they're actually increasing and entrenching themselves in Australian imperialism. So I just want to know the Guild, what they're going to do to, help promote this. I heard Veronica before talk about the comms and stuff, but, there's lots of things the Guild can do, which was said last week. But I would like to know more because our questions weren't really answered on what's been happening outside of communication. They could poster. The conference is actually in the first week of university, so there could be stalls, information stalls, trying to get people along, leafleting in O Week, week 1, press release to media, statement against Curtin being platinum sponsor. These are all things I wrote down just then. So there's a huge list that we have said. So I just, I want to know what the Curtin Guild is planning on doing with, their over $3 million. This should be a huge campaign where you're pouring your funds to. So what are you doing?
Thank you for that verbose question. I will just note that I asked to draw to a question at 6:27. It is now 6:30. That is a 3-minute question. So thank you for that verbose remark. Veronica, I would invite you, as you were mentioned, to comment. Again, you don't have to if you don't want to. We can have this discussion outside of Guild Council, but I'm happy to have it here as well, provided you're happy to speak.
Yes, so can I just ask, I thought the conference was on O-Day, not, oh wait, yeah. No, stalls is a great idea. Yes, I did actually note that down before, but yes. We are actually doing stalls, yes. Sorry.
Thank you.
I didn't get all of the question, but I heard that and I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you, Veronica. Ray.
I had a couple of notes on Mitch's point earlier. I also have a comment or a question about one of the executive committee reports, so please circle back to me at the end of this discussion. Mitch made a point earlier about how the ORB position didn't have a clear job role, and while that absolutely may be the case, in my experience having sat on Reps Board for 2 years when we did have ordinary Reps Board members present, some of the best questions about reports came from ordinary Reps Board members, particularly the Left Action members, and the majority of motions came from particularly Left Action ordinary Reps Board members. So claiming that they didn't do much is disingenuous, really. I just wanted to raise that. But please circle back so I can raise an issue about the one of the exec committee meetings, please.
Thank you. Ray, Mitch, did you want to just clarify comments?
I'll take that point. That wasn't my view that I gave. That is the reason that was given in the motion to amend the regs. So that was not my view. That was the reason given in the motion, because I wasn't a member of the Guild Council that changed it. I was a member of the legal committee when we reviewed the regs, and that was the motion that came forward from Guild Council recommending to legal committee to change it, and those were the reasons stated in that motion.
Thank you, Mitch. If there's no further discussion on this point, we'll circle back to you, Ray, for an issue with the executive committee notation.
Thank you. It's not an issue so much as just a request for expansion, I guess. On the final one, the 30th of May exec committee minutes, under, I think it's Jackie's report, students with accessibility needs can email accessibility services for bay reassignment for construction. Are you able to expand on that a bit, Jackie? This is the first I'm hearing about it.
Jackie?
1 second, I'm just finding my notes, Ray.
I think this was about one of the car parks was getting shut or something, and they needed to be some of the bays needed to be reassigned for like.
There's about 6 car parks shutting. We're losing about, I think it's probably around 20 ACROD bays specifically, but there's also like courtesy bays and other things that are being closed down in that renovation.
Thanks, Ray. Jackie?
Yeah, so I had a check-in meeting with Liz, the accessibility officer, and she let me know that students who need accessible parking, I think is it near the engineering building, that car park's being closed. Basically any students who need accessible parking have the ability to just email for Liz as well. Instead of having to go through the chain at Curtin, they can just email for Liz directly and see if they can get accessible parking for them. Does that answer the question?
Kind of, not really. It's sort of, if this is ACROD bays that are being reallocated, that kind of defeats the purpose of an ACROD bay, because they're meant to be close to your final destination, I guess. And if they're being moved away, that's, yeah.
Jasmine?
So with those parking bays in particular, it's not the ACROD bays that through the system are being reallocated. It's students that it would essentially need an ACROD bay, but are like in the process of getting it or still need closer parking, can get the courtesy bays. It's something they're just doing temporarily for the new building.
So are ACROD bays also getting reallocated?
Mitch.
Sorry, I think they're looking at how many they might need to reallocate into other car parks to put in additional courtesy and ACROD as well. So we can take the question, or you can ask Feliz. Feliz knows more about this than any of us. So
shall we put it to the action list?
We can follow up with I'll ask Feliz and send you an email.
That would be great. Thank you very much, because that one of my major go-to bays is getting closed down for a year or more, which is going to be fun to deal with.
Thank you, Ray. We'll just amend that to the action list. Was there any further discussions for general business? If not, we'll move to item 9. Item 9 is the meeting evaluation. Veronica, please provide us with your insights and evaluation for today's meeting.
I regret to inform that I completely forgot that I was doing the meeting evaluation, I will be honest. And I do not have the form in front of me. Is it all right if we suspend this one? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, let's move it to the next Guild Council. You're not escaping meeting evaluation.
It's part. I asked Mitch to remind me, but I wasn't in the office, so it's my fault. But yeah.
No worries, that's okay. Blunt end to an exciting otherwise Guild Council. We'll move to the discussion for next meeting. With that, the ordinary meeting of the Guild Council, the next meeting of the Guild Council is Thursday the 25th of July at 5:30 p.m. to be held in Council Chambers. Documents and motions are to be submitted no later than 5 p.m. on the 18th to Mitch. And with that, we'll close the meeting at 6:36, and I'll leave you with a quote from another great pair of lyricists. Seeing as we opened with Eminem, we're going to finish with Wiz Khalifa and Charlie Puth. We've come a long way without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again, which will be the 25th of July. See you then.